A Light in the Darkness Chapter 53, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Tyranids were an ever-evolving, highly aggressive threat that, despite not even having the hive mind guiding their actions on this planet, they were still highly dangerous foes with their many adaptations. Some were all but invisible with reflective scaling covering their flesh that would bend the light around them, allowing them to easily pounce on their unaware prey. Many had long-range options like compressed, highly acidic spittle they could launch. Some went even further by evolving to allow their forms to create a superheated plasma within themselves to launch at their prey. But across all evolutions, a couple of things were standard. Their armor and chitin that was denser and more protective than any guard armor, and of course, their astounding physical strength, even for the smaller, weaker beasts of Tyranids. Even as my little expeditionary group I was escorting was recovering and taking some alchemical pills to boost their natural body's recovery from their wounds and chi usage from fighting all the Tyranids we came across in a nice clearing. I was more focused on the chunks of the swords that the Swarm Lord used to fight those Chaos Champions that I found. A Pisker wouldn't be able to hold that blade. It would be like embracing one of your people's blanks. Ira, the twin Eldar and pilot of that Wraith Knight mech, said with a frown as I hefted the large crimson shard that was about half a meter long and was surprisingly thick. I nodded to her words as even my own cultivator essence almost felt sluggish while holding the shard I managed to find. For a moment, I considered infusing this shard into my dermic blade that I used to perform all my sword arts, but then I firmly crossed that thought out, as who knew if actually refining it would either make it harmful to me or not. But then, as I held it in my hands, I smiled as I looked at my Kasaya beads that were entangled around from my wrist to my shoulder. Arya, when you get back to the sect, turn in your acquired materials and put in an order with the smiths for a blade that fits your style and pick out a martial arts technique and a body refinement technique in the sect's library so you can start cultivating properly. I lightly chided her and, by extension, the rest of the Eldar who came to study at my sect. They were all so focused on the hymns and other supplementary things that kept Slaanesh and other chaotic influences out of their heart that they were undoubtedly going to stagnate. Sect Master, wouldn't setting a strong foundation on the onset, with a clear mind as well, be more conducive to this cultivation? Arya respectfully prodded, and I snorted. No, going out exploring, killing monsters, and settling grudges with finality, leads to a clear and peaceful mind. Endlessly sitting in a cave with your eyes closed doesn't do much for true peace of mind when your mind automatically rolls around to what-ifs and past losses. I spoke as my mind filled in the blanks on how the Murderobo MCs of cultivation worlds grew so powerful and so quickly besides their cheats. Sure, their stupidly overpowered cheats that were even greater than my own gift of knowledge were very potent, but in the end, if they didn't run around being a murder hobo taking all the prizes from wherever they went, then they wouldn't amount for anything. Haven't you noticed your movements are so much more familiar? Don't you feel like your technique, whether it be body refinement or martial technique, can be used much smoother? I questioned the group, and they all nodded, so I continued. That threat of death. That moment, Tyrus was grabbed by a lictor and was about to get his head eaten, and you stabbed your dagger through the monster's head. You had a moment of perfect clarity, and at that moment, it was a moment of cultivation epiphany leading to great progress. I explained to my little classroom, surrounded by the corpses of dozens of monsters they killed earlier. Sure, sitting down in cultivation, in deep meditation, and getting a true epiphany was a heaven-sent opportunity with the peace and time you could get for such an event to take advantage of. But such events rarely happened except for the main characters, and thus the best way to artificially create an epiphany would be to fight with your life hanging in the balance, and in that moment of dancing on the knife's edge between life and assured death, your mind would be forced into an epiphany state. Although such an epiphany was comically short, as either you killed your foe and thus the threat to your life was gone, or you yourself died. But should you survive that encounter, you will become stronger, more talented, and clear-minded from the experience. Alright, everyone, get up. I see a nice lonely Carnifex over there, so Eloin, you use your movement technique to go bash it over the head with a stick to get its attention. I said with a terrible grin as I took in my paling students, as I continued to speak. Then lead it over here where you all will ambush it together. You all got 3 minutes to make a plan before I instead bring over the 3 Carnifexes over there together. Ah, as my students looked at me with despair, I now knew the wonderful pleasure of bullying my students. I thought joyfully as I watched the beautiful scene of humans and Eldar hurriedly discussing together how they could set a trap for something patently stronger than them, with one of the students claiming she knew how to create a couple of simple formations. Now I just had to make sure I didn't trip any flags and get killed off to encourage their own growth. I was literally living in Warhammer 40k and forcing cultivation tropes into the universe. I had to be careful, as killing off the awesome teacher was an overused trope after all.